there. Good afternoon. My name is Tammy Beaumont. I am part of the OAC. I'm on their national board. After many years of begging and pleading, I finally made it. And here I am with you sharing this afternoon. Today we are really excited because this topic is very important, I think, and it's something that we don't shed enough light on. Health interrupted. Have you guys ever had your health, your journey, your weight loss interrupted by something or maybe someone? Yeah, a couple of nods. Well, today's the day we're going to try and figure out identifying those folks and maybe what to do about them. You know, so sometimes it can get a little touchy-feely when they're your significant other and they're the ones who turn out to be sabotaging you. So, well, this is the way things are kind of going to go today. A little different than maybe some of the other sessions. We have our illustrious speakers, Miss Meryl Littleberry, who I think you all are well acquainted with. She's got so much alphabet soup behind her name that it's hard to know what she's not an expert in. And a very close friend of mine lives 8.9 miles from my house. And when do we get to see each other? Because she is so friggin' busy. Oh, yeah. Pass the blame. And then our second speaker, or actually she's our first speaker.
I'm your first speaker.
You're the first speaker? Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
We've gone back.
You remember how Meryl talked about upgrade? Well, those of you who were in Meryl's presentation yesterday heard her talk about upgrades. There's no such thing as change anymore. Upgrades. It's all about upgrades. Well, we've had a little upgrade here. Okay. Meryl is speaking first. Pam Davis. I think a number of you recognize Pam. She's been part of the OAC since the day it began, I think. Had many leadership roles, committees, past president of the OAC. She's very, very active in our professional group, the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery, and is actually the president-elect of our integrated health section of the ASMBS. So that's a big honor. And today we've brought to you our special patient panel to help answer these questions from their perspective. Now, don't get me wrong, you guys are going to have so much time to answer questions because Pam and Meryl have given up part of their talk time to allow you to interact and you to ask more questions, because this is something that is likely to bring about a lot of thought processes. So we just wanted you to know that right from the start. Our panel is going to be introduced. They're going to introduce themselves as Meryl and Pam start discussing with them. So I'm not dissing you guys, just putting you off a little bit. Save the best for last, right? But we wanted to start out with just a minute or two of interaction with you all. Some questions. How many of you in the audience right now are surgical patients? Okay, a good many. And those following a kind of a medical trajectory, trying to find the niche for you as far as getting healthier.
Non-medical.
What'd you say?
Non-medical? Non-surgical?
Non-surgical, medical, non-surgical? Yeah,
okay.
How many of you who were in the surgical group were required to attend a support group before you had surgery? Required. Oh, nice. Wow. That's what I like to see. How many were required to go afterwards and went to at least one afterwards? Not quite as many hands, but a good portion. How many of you continue to go to a support group as long as you possibly can and understand the importance? Excellent. What's that? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is probably the biggest support group that there is. And most definitely okay, maybe not but one of the most important. All right. Well, that was just kind of our initial survey to get to know you a little better. And from that, I think it's time to bring you the real presentations, and I'll start off with Miss Meryl. Are you ready to come and continue the energy up here?
They got my energy yesterday, so I'm going to be really chill, right? Does anybody believe that?
Come on up.
Ooh, I have to be chill because I have to stand in front of the mic.
I'm not used to that either, so yeah, I'm right there with you.
Kind of interesting. So we're going to take a little bit of a swap here. We talk about friend or foe, right? So of course, everybody knows I've been making you do some really weird things with your hands today, right? So make sure you do have a piece of paper and a pen in front of you. If we feel uncomfortable, then we definitely have something we want to think about. But a lot of times, we always hear people talking about, hey, is it friend or foe? Should I be with this group of people? How did I, get so immersed with toxic people? And so the question that we were asking, when we look around us, everything that's around us, is it working for us or is it working against us? And I guess the first question we try to ask ourselves is, how did I get here? And how do I turn it's not. And is this the one? Oh, this is it. Whoops, sorry. How did I get here? And was it me or my environment? Because there are times, we were talking about as a child, we really don't have a choice about our environment, right? Does anybody feel that they don't have a choice about it right now? So when you think about this question, is it me or my environment? I'm hearing a couple hms. And it doesn't mean that things that we went through don't impact us. But you do hear about it a lot. And probably one of my first, maybe 50 bariatric patients, we worked for quite a while. We worked for quite a while because she had so much stinking thinking going on that I wasn't really comfortable clearing her for surgery. So 6 months we went through, and she wanted that. She said, I want to know I'm in the right place and that I'm doing the right surgery for the right reasons. And we got to a point that when she could explain, I said, give me in one sentence, what's your motivation for surgery? And when she felt that it was comfortable enough that she should move forward, then we did. And she had a surgery date, and about a month later, she came back. And she said, I'm not going to have surgery. And in my head, I said, the heck we're not. Like, we worked really hard to get to this place. We're going to have that surgery. And so she said, the fact is, I'm fat, ugly, and unwantable, and I will always be that way. Like 6 months with this individual. But then when I realized is I had to work 6 months to get through all these different layers to get her to feel comfortable, to trust me, to tell me that. And I said, why do you think that? I said, wait a minute, what makes you think that? Wait a minute, who told you that? She said, my dad. And I thought in my head, I'm as conspicuous as possible. I'm trying to look through her chart because I knew her dad had passed. I knew her dad passed. And so I'm trying to go back and I'm like, I knew the dad had passed at least 15 years. I said, when is the last time your father told you that? She said, 25 years ago. I said, well, who's been telling you that ever since? I will tell you, a lot of the things that people tell me about is what they keep replaying in their head. There will be one person in your life that tells you something and you make their truth your reality. That's your choice. That is a choice. That person gets in their car and goes about their life. They don't waste any more energy. And we talked about this just in the luncheon. You bring them in the car with you. You bring them home in the tub with you because that's where your energy's going. You're sitting right there and they are taking up your energy. You have to recognize that. We become the biggest foe in our life. As a child, maybe even all the way up as an adolescent. You didn't have a choice because you didn't know you had another option. I want to think most of us, I know me, I've lived out of the home longer than I probably lived in the home at this point. So that means we have a bigger experience. Our realm does not only encompass a 16-block radius. You've been exposed to people. Maybe our parents or their parents weren't the best example, but somewhere in life I want to think you've seen somebody that made you say, oh, this can be different. My question is, what did you choose? So when you think of that, how do you get to your place called joy? There's times I ask people, when's the last time they're like, I just want to be happy. When's the last time you remember being happy? And there's a pause. There's a long pause. And they're like, well, what is happiness? What is it to you? My happiness might be very different. If I can get in the tub and have a bubble bath without getting interrupted with, that's happiness. Is anything bleeding or broke? If not, but what is it for you? What did you do yesterday to make yourself healthier and happier today? And if your mind is blank, how do you expect to be better if you don't do better? Not because of what Alex said in 7th grade to me, How long did I carry that, boulder on my backpack? Those were some mean things growing up north. Well, I'm sure they heard too. I heard people were nicer in Texas than up north, but man, we had some mean kids. And you're growing up thinking about this kid down the hallway in high school, and your school has graduated multiple generations of kids, and I'm still carrying around somebody else's boulder. I probably could walk up to the kid and he wouldn't even know who I was. But I choose to carry that. We become so comfortable in chaos, it's like a warm bottle to a baby. So if chaos is removed from your life, what do you replace it with? Do you know how many times I have to ask somebody, take yourself off of social media? Give it a week. Just give me 1 week to clear your brain of everybody else's drama so that I can figure out who you are. I can't spend every 30 minutes of the session talking about who said what about you and now they're doing this and they didn't like you or you expected more likes and you have put your whole value into how many thumbs up you get. And unfortunately for high school kids and under and even 20, our value is based on how many friends we have. And I can guarantee, in case nobody informed you, because you friend somebody, that does not mean they're your friend. And if you think that, you might want to redefine friend. How do you stand all by yourself? And so when it comes to that friend or foe, I ask you, are you your best friend? How many, without any doubt in their head, when I ask you, are you your best friend, can very proudly say, yep, stick your hand up. We have more people going to sport group than we have that can say, I am my best friend. That needs to change. That needs to change. No matter how old you get, how far you go, or where you go, you are stuck with you. And think what it's like being in a room with people you don't like. 30 minutes feels like 5 hours. An 8-hour car trip with my mom and my son, there's times you get a little irritated because you can't breathe, but I love that moment. We can't go anywhere else. But now imagine 2 people that you had the most difficult time with taking an 8-hour ride. Imagine what you would feel like by the time you arrived here. So what is it like spending 168 hours inside yourself and you're not your best friend? Be a pretty irritated person, huh? So why I say that is because I want you guys to recognize you can't change what you don't recognize. If you don't realize you don't have options, there won't be any way to go. If you feel, hey, I didn't realize I had options, well, now you do. There's no excuses going forward. You have options to choose who it is you want to be. If you like who you are, but other people don't, that's on them. But if you don't like who you are and other people don't like who you are, that's on you. When people come in and they say, I don't even know who I don't recognize this person anymore. I'm angry all the time. I have a short fuse. I'm agitated. I'm snapping at people. I don't want to be around anybody. If you see somebody who's irritated, agitated, aggravated, you will find somebody who is empty. Because we're so busy trying to please everybody else that can't be pleased that we're empty. We're just completely depleted. So recognize those areas in your life. So that piece of paper, and I do this every time, and I hope if you guys come that you have gotten better at this. The people there at my table, they have a little advantage, but 3 words that define you all by yourself. What are they? Boom, boom, boom. First 3 words. Who are you all by yourself? It amazes me how long it takes to come up with this answer. Because if I said, hey, tell me 3 words that define your child. Oh, intelligent, happy, smart, all by themselves. We don't even think about it. What about your child? What about your mom? Just boom, boom, boom. I say, well, who are you? So on those 3 words that some people are still pondering and then other people haven't written down because they don't know. Take out anything that's negative. You are not fat. You may have fat, but you are not fat. You have hair, you don't say, I'm hair. If you have loving, you can keep that if you are as loving to yourself as you are to others. If not, cross it out. I can guarantee there are several givings in the audience. I am giving. If you are as giving to yourself as you are to others, then keep it. If you have mom, teacher, sister, brother, aunt, take it out, because I said all by yourself. And that role changes. I'm a mom, I will always be a mom, but that role changes. And when that role changes, who am I? All by ourselves, 3 positive words that define us. Because I need to know who manages my mindset. I want to manage my mindset. I want to master my why. What is your why? Master your why and excel at whatever capacity. You become your biggest foe because you're looking at what everybody else is doing. We come here, and this is the wonderful event, and I will hear, yes, I listen to you when I'm not looking at you, and I'll hear, oh my gosh, she looks amazing. Last year, her and I were the same size. I've gained 20 pounds, and look at her. She doesn't go home with you. She is not on your journey. You don't know what you don't know. And so now we're disappointed and we're upset because we're comparing ourselves to something that has nothing to do with us. Are you excelling at your capacity? There are people doing amazing stuff, writing books and starting off their own businesses, and they're doing these things because they reached you, or they talked to me, or you showed them that they were bigger, and they're doing amazing things because they let go of what everybody else said they could or could not do and decided what they wanted to do. And moving forward in that, all of a sudden they became exactly who they wanted to be. And it had nothing to do with anybody else but them. It was priceless at our table today. Somebody talked about how all of these different things since, the 8th grade, I had to do this and I was monitored there. And then finally one day I said, F it. She said the whole word, but. When she decided to do it for her, do you think things changed? When she decided to build from the ground up, do you think things changed? I think it's important to understand. Sometimes we weren't given a really good foundation. I don't know what it's like here in Louisiana, but in Texas, it's not good. There's no basements in Texas. When you come up from Milwaukee, you're looking for the door to lead to a basement, and there are none. So we have different foundations depend on where we grew up, right? We didn't get to select what household or what region we're there. So we don't know what your foundation is going to be like. So all of us had different foundations. When we started building our own house, choosing how you wanted it to be, not what somebody else wanted it to be, what you chose. How strong we wanted the floor, how strong we wanted the foundation, what colors, and we built it. Regardless to how much time we put into it, maybe the neighbor, they wanted the house up and they just frivolously built it. Did that prevent a storm? If you took a lot of time and a lot of effort to put what you build up, it doesn't prevent the storms from coming. The storms still come. What I'm hoping is when you come here, you learn what kind of storms you can anticipate. And knowing what kind of challenges are ahead of you, and we give you those tools and we say, hey, reinforce, do some peer and beam. This might happen. And all of a sudden you prepare for it. It doesn't stop the storms from coming. It doesn't stop people from dying. It doesn't stop people from leaving you. But it makes you stronger in the middle of that hurricane because it feels like a hurricane. You feel like you're never going to get out of that storm. And we're up here looking from the Weather Channel telling you it's almost over. It doesn't mean you're going to open that door and see everything the way it was before, but you survived. And you're strong enough to get through. And everything you thought that would take you down, everything you thought was bigger than you and powerful, you were more. Because you're sitting here today, you're passing on all kinds of love. I love coming here because I leave exuberated. Like I don't know if there's actually a word for it, but it feels really good. Thank you guys for passing that on. Didn't even touch a slide, so they're just gonna take it off. Understand, you guys have the power to change. I challenge you. In our class, I talked about gratitude, attitude. We are gonna try to have a place where if somebody does something nice for you, it feels good letting somebody know. Imagine going there and seeing your name because you decided to hold a door. You stopped and took a little bit of time to make somebody feel like they matter. So on our Vitamin M Facebook page, we're asking, find a way to fill your heart and pass it on. Gratitude Avenue is going to be a place. If somebody does something nice, let them know that you know, because you never know how far that ripple is going to reach. Thank you.
I have no idea what that means.
So one of the questions that I'm going to ask towards the panel is, but with the things I talked about, storms coming across, regardless to all the things that you guys did, what would you say are the top 2 events in your life, negative or positive, that impacted your weight loss or journey towards health? Big Patty might have. Don't all answer at once. Is that Patty?
I'm happy to start. Are these on? Can you hear me?
The mic?
It's on. On now? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, that's right. I will introduce myself. My name is Patty Neese, and I'm on the OAC Board of Directors. And I am not, just so you know, I'm not a surgical patient. I know the majority of you are, I am not. I've been medically managed. And I have been able to lose about 110 pounds or so and keep most of it off for 3 years now. So, yeah, thank you, and I am proud of it, but the reason I wanted you to know that is because I think there is so much of what Meryl has said, because a lot of the work I did had to do with my thoughts and my processes. But the most important positive thing for me was finding the right obesity specialist, and who has a whole team of nutritionists, psychologists, exercise specialists, and medical treatment. Takes a 360 approach to it. And I needed every piece of that support to come as far as I have. So finding him was probably the most positive thing on my weight loss journey. The most negative thing was how I talked to myself. I've had obesity since I was, 2 years old. I grew up, it's been my entire life. So I've never gone without being ridiculed and shamed about my weight, bullied, you name it, it's happened to me. And I eventually internalized all that, and I know that we've been talking about that this weekend, because it's really important. And I had internalized it so far that I stopped hearing what I was saying to myself. And I was working with one of the psychologists on my doctor's team, and I said, no, I don't talk to myself. She said, what are you saying to yourself? I said, I don't talk to myself. I said, yeah, I've got the routine about, got to go to the dry cleaners, got to pick up the car, blah, blah, blah. But I don't talk to myself. And she said, pretty sure you do. and I thought about that for a while, and I started trying to listen. And it took me a while to hear what I was telling myself. And when I did, see if any of this sounds sort of familiar to what you might have told yourself. I remember walking down the hallway at work. We have a pretty big office building. It's a federal government building. And that was, at 100 and some pounds heavier, that was a real chore for me. And I was, huffing and puffing. I wanted to stop. I was out of breath. And what I was telling myself was, you are such a failure. You cannot even manage your weight. You can't even walk down this hall. You are worthless. I'm like, I guess I do talk to myself. But that's what I was telling myself, and I didn't even know I was telling myself. Can you imagine managing your weight if that's what you're telling yourself? It doesn't work, not long term. So uncovering those negative thoughts And ending, no longer being the biggest foe in my life, has been it has been the key to the success I've had.
Anybody else? Biggest event, maybe negative or positive? Okay.
So I have, my name's Minna Adams. I am a licensed professional counselor. I actually work with bariatric patients. I am also a bariatric patient. I had two precipitating events in my life that kind of brought me on the path of trying to lose weight. First was I turned 22 and I went to the doctor and I got on the scale and I weighed 353 pounds and I freaked out. And I went on a low carb diet. I was able to lose 75 pounds, but set point just would not let me break the barrier. And I then, that was about 4 or 5 years before Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina happened. I was in the middle of my graduate school program, having to go through the counseling required as a therapist. They forced us to go through counseling. Mm-hmm. Hurricane Katrina happened, and I realized I needed to really put some effort into, go all the way, work out every day, do all the things, and stay the same weight. It was a very stressful time. I left for the semester to go to Florida, and I lived 2 blocks away from a Bally Total Fitness. I woke up every morning at 6 a.m. and went to the gym, and for that 6-month period, lost 5 pounds, putting all of my energy into it, and I knew that there had to be a bigger reason why I was struggling. So a few years later, I'm about to turn 30, and I was like, I can't live this way anymore. There's something wrong. I need something more. And so my parents were super supportive in helping me have lap band surgery. And I did that. It worked for 4 years, and then it didn't. And so I'm kind of representing the revision aspects of this here. Had my band out in emergency surgery doing Hurricane Isaac. I was in the hospital for 5 days. My mom was with me the whole time. My surgeon came to me twice, right immediately after surgery and then right before I left the hospital. Didn't interact at all with me. Very cold relationship there. And then I had 14 months of no surgical intervention and regained right back up to 280. Since have revised twice too. I went to sleeve and RNY. But I have a great relationship with my surgeon now. My surgeon is probably my biggest, supporter, and we talk on a regular basis. And I think that connection with your provider means a whole lot. Like really making that connection or having medical professionals that are there to monitor you throughout. You have someone that you're going to who is supportive, who is understanding, that's compassionate, that's not going to judge you, not going to blame you, shame you, all of that. If it's a therapist, if it's a surgeon, if it's a general practitioner, someone who is going to listen to you.
So 2 things that kind of came up on the board there, failure. It was very difficult to hear people say that, I run all of this stuff in my life. I manage my home, I manage my job, but the one thing that I do more than anything else is what I choose to put in my mouth, and I feel like a failure. I challenge you to go find one of those red books in your house that actually, it's called the Webster Dictionary. I don't know if they're extinct. I need you to look up the word failure. Failure is not about not meeting your goal or not getting to where you wanted to be. Failure is the omission of trying. You guys decided to come spend this weekend with us. You don't qualify. I am going to pass it on to my partner of crime. We do giggle a lot, but she definitely compliments, and this will be Pam to win the second part.
Well, hello, everybody. They definitely saved the best session for last is what I'm thinking the afternoon here. So I'm going to talk about support groups. And since we can't all take Meryl home with us today, I am very excited that so many of you had to attend a support group prior to surgery. We always, try to focus on if you don't go before, then you don't realize why you might need it after. And certainly support groups are not just limited to surgery patients, but I definitely want to kind of talk about what's the good, bad, and ugly of those groups. Which one of these things moves?
That's
this one? Okay.
Green.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so you can have peer-led groups, and I loved Wendy's question about does this count as a support group? Most definitely it does, and everybody in this room is your peer. So look to your left, look to your right. You have not dramatically. Some may be traumatic, but you have dramatically increased your support group network by being here. You know, I so often hear from some of our patients that, you know, like they don't have support at home. They don't even have anybody to help them get to the hospital to and from their surgery. And, you know, they're really worried about, can they do this by themselves? And I'm like, well, I guess you could, but, you know, you've come to a program to be a part of something bigger than just yourself trying to battle your weight. So we definitely want to talk about, you know, what it looks like to be part of a support group versus we were trying to come up with a good name for it. I'm just going to throw it out there. Being part of a support group versus a bitch, whine, and moan group. So we're going to talk about the difference between the two. Professional-led groups, you may, as part of your program, have some professionals that lead the support groups. It may be a nurse, such as myself. It may be a dietitian. It may be behavioral health specialist. In some rare instances, it may actually be the surgeon leading that group, which I've never quite figured out if that's good or bad, but, you know, I guess for some that can be a good thing. Oh, you know what? I wanted to go, let's see, let me go back, because I want to point out the 3 little key phrases I have at the bottom on peer-led groups versus professional-led groups. So peer-led groups, you know, a positive, you're always seeking positivity in whatever mechanism of support you're looking at, whether it's online, it's social media, it's a peer-led group or a professional-led group. And a lot of times we'll hear folks say that they prefer the peer-led groups because they get that honesty, that honest opinion. And I'm, you know, transparency, honesty, you know, surgery, weight loss, any form of weight loss journey is not rainbows and kittens and unicorn puppies, all that. You know, it's a difficult journey. What I am opposed to in a peer-led group or a non-professional-led group is when you cross that line and you start giving medical advice or you start receiving clinical advice. So just kind of make sure that the people that are, you know, leading that peer-led group stay on peer topics of this is my experience, this is what I know, this is what's happened to me, this is how I feel. They're not telling you what vitamins to take, what foods to eat, when to call the doctor, that type of thing. In the professional-led groups, again, you should be looking for that positive nature to it. You will get more of that clinical perspective. This is where the topics may center around vitamin regimens. It may center around other specialists, plastic surgeons, that type of thing. It may have more of an educational focus to it than a group discussion type of focus to it. And then, so what to look for in each of these groups. So with a peer-led group, you want to look at, you know, access. So, like, where is the group physically meeting? Is it someplace that's easy to get to, that has parking near the door, that has chairs such as these in the room that, you know, everybody's going to be able to fit in and be comfortable in? Is it a sponsored group? Meaning, the program that I'm at in Nashville, we have several groups that we do on site that are professional-led groups, but we also sponsor peer-led groups across the state where there are patients that we have trained to be support group leaders. So that would be a sponsored type of group. And then the consistency, you know, does it meet on a regular basis? Is it on the second Tuesday of every month or the third Saturday? Or do you go sometimes and nobody's there, it's been canceled, you don't know about it? It's kind of a hit or miss thing. And then looking at that support group leader. Are they experienced? That doesn't mean that, you know, they have to have a background this long of having led, you know, 500 support groups. But Are they experienced, meaning they are somebody that has been there, done that. They've gone through that weight loss journey. They have some of that background to share with you as a patient. When we work with our support group leaders for our peer-led groups, our criteria is that they need to be a year out from surgery, and they need to come in for a set number of hours of training with us, so they have that core information to share. Are they able to read group dynamics? Now, and I'm not just talking about support group. This could be any type of group setting that you've been in. Anybody been in a group where one person talked the legs off of everybody in the group? You know, they just would not shut up. Well, you know, you can't look at people and say, zip it. Although, you know, sometimes you may want to. You have to nicely figure out how to, you know, stop that person from monopolizing the group. Then you may also have some of those introverts in there that are like, you know, your amen corner. They're kind of sitting in the back and they're nodding yes or no, but they don't make eye contact with anybody and they don't want to, you know, really share what's going on with them. Well, you have to have kind of the knowledge of how to engage that person and let them know if they're comfortable sharing anything, they can do that in a safe space. But if they're not, it's fine for them to sit there and not ever say a word. All of those things are acceptable, but you want to make sure that somebody has enough knowledge in group dynamics that they can really be a cohesive experience, because you're not going to have the exact same people coming every month. So you've got to be able to add in and out from that. And then there are other types of support group trainings and certifications out there, some different companies that do that. And then, you know, kind of what I was talking about with that group dynamic, you know, being realistic, but also being supportive of each other. And then, you know, you have some of your Debbie Downers, and I relate this to, you know, when I was pregnant, I never met a single woman that said, woo, labor was a breeze. I popped that sucker out in 20 minutes, and, you know, I tiptoed through the tulips on the way home. Every person was like, oh my gosh, my friend was in labor for 3 days, and that baby weighed 20 pounds, and, you know. And it's the same thing with surgery. It's like when you tell somebody that you're thinking about having surgery or you've had surgery, well, I know somebody that liked to have died from that, right? You know, that's the first thing they want to tell you. Or, you know, oh, my friend had this complication, or they did this, or they did that. It's like, you know, it gets back to that zip it. You know, we're here to be realistic, but also be supportive. So complications happen. Weight regain happens. But we don't need to make it the central focus of the universe. We need to put it in the category in the bucket that it's in. Then when you shift over and you look at professional-led groups, there's a lot of the same components that you want to look at there. One, I actually had to go back and consciously make myself add on here was cost, because in our area of the country, our part of the state, there's not a cost for attendance at support groups, professional-led groups, but I do hear tales that there are some programs across the country and some professionally led groups that charge a fee for attendance, so you'd want to check with that. Again, that consistency, you know, is it the same professional? Is it the same date, the same time? Do they rotate? If there's somebody that you really like that person and how they lead the group, but you're not so fond of the other one, you know, you want to figure out the schedule because you want to make it what works for you. Is it an open group or a closed group? And by that, it can mean a couple of different things. So it could be an open group that it's open to patients of any program in the area. Or it could be closed to only the patients of that particular surgeon or program. It could be open for you bringing your support persons with you, your friends, your family members, or it could be closed that it's patients only type of group. So again, things that you want to know because it may change the group dynamic. And then what's the philosophy of the program? You know, we welcome any and everybody that wants to come to our groups, but we have on our sign-in sheet across the top of it, before you sign into that support group, you know, that when we talk about anything relating to the dietary stages or the vitamins after surgery, those types of things. We're talking about what our program philosophy is. So, you know, you're coming to our group, we're going to talk about the way we do it, but we welcome others to come in. And then again, that group leader, you want somebody that's experienced, that has some skills with group dynamics, that has you know, some credentials. There's a reason that that person's been in charge of the group, and not just that, you know, they happen to be the person that got tagged with doing it. You know, just like the people that are in the group need to want to be there, not have to be there, same way with your support group leader. They need to want to be there. They need to want to connect with you and engage with you and help you along your weight loss journey, not to have been the person who drew the short straw and they've got to do group tonight. And that kind of goes along with that group dynamic. And also, you know, is it inclusive or exclusive? Is it a group discussion type of dynamic? Is it more didactic? We're going to have a lesson plan and we're going to do a PowerPoint and we're going to go over certain things, and you're going to walk out with what I like to call tools you can use, things you can immediately take home and put into play. I think ideally, this is my personal bias, that a blend of those groups, a blend of those types of topics is best. You know, how do you feel about going to group? This is something that you should be excited about. It should be like, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday night, I get to go to group. I can't wait to be there. I wonder who's going to be there. What are we going to talk about? You know, what are we going to do before? What are we going to do after? I can't tell you how many times we've been going around introducing ourselves in group, and somebody comes in and, you know, it's like I'm the priest. And they're like, well, you're going to be mad at me. I had some sweet tea. And my response is always 100%. What you put in your mouth has no effect on the size of my butt whatsoever. So, you know, it's like you got up this morning, you decided if you wanted to drink sweet tea or unsweet tea. You decided what type of food you wanted to have, just like you decided if you wanted to work out, if you wanted to wear red shoes or, you know, purple jacket or whatever. And if you have a feeling of dread going to group, something's not right. Either that's not the right group for you, maybe you've got something going on and you actually need to have more intensive counseling, a more intensive one-on-one conversation with someone than just, you know, a group discussion about it. Social media is its own whole, you know, realm. There are a lot of really good groups out there, good Facebook groups. I'm biased. I think our program has a really good one. We have a Facebook page, and we have a group that's just our patients. There are some out there that are just horrific. I can't believe some of the things that are on there, and I cannot believe that the word support is even loosely associated with some of them. We've had so many of our patients be like, oh, you know, I first had surgery and I joined like 15 groups. Well, now I've quit 14 of them because they tell me the wrong thing, or, you know, all everybody wants to do is complain, so I don't go to those anymore. So just like with a physical group, you've got to make sure that online group meets those qualifications and is working for you. So you want to decide, as Meryl said, and sight unseen. We, you know, did not correlate our words here, but you want to decide who you want in your life. Who do you want to take on your weight loss journey? Some people may not make the cut. I had family I had to cut off of that journey, and you know what? It made me a whole lot healthier and happier for doing so. You may have to cut, you know, a few people loose. You may have to separate yourself from family, and, you know, my two takeaways would be every day you wake up is a blessing, and it's filled with choices, small and large. Choose what works for you. Choose you. You are worth every step of this journey, so choose you. And I didn't do my other question, so
Do you have a question? Go ahead.
what?
You have questions for the panel?
I gave you my questions for the beginning. So are we doing, but I can certainly have some questions for the moment.
Go
so,
for it.
Make up some new ones.
Yes, let's make up some new ones. So especially I'm going to pick on the one male up here in front of the room. Tell me what support looks like to you.
Well, thank you, Pam. I think that's a very interesting question. I think it has many faces, and I don't think it's one singular thing. And I go back to Meryl's talk for a second, in that I think by and large, we as individuals always like to start and finish something. And you think about it as children. We started elementary school, we finished elementary school, middle school, high school. You begin, you end. You begin, you end. And I think for me, in my battle with weight, and I actually should have prefaced this, so I am not a surgical patient. I lost weight, lost about 65 pounds through behavior modification. I've kept it off for about 5 years now. Thank you, thank you. But I think I've had to learn over time that there's no finish line with weight. It's a journey. And I got down on myself a lot because I would say, now you're up 10 pounds. You didn't get to the finish line. And I had to remind myself and say, okay, look, there is no finish line here. We become engulfed in instant gratification. We want everything and we want it now. I can go on Amazon and get a pair of shoes delivered to my house in 2 hours. Well, I want to lose 10 pounds and I want to lose it in 2 days. That's not realistic. It's not healthy. So to answer your question, what does support look like? I think I look to myself. I look to my family. But I also think one of the most important things for me, I look to my past. I look to my past for inspiration to say, James, you've been there and you've come this far, but the obstacles and the speed bumps that you've hit along the way that have interrupted your journey are not a bad thing. You've educated yourself by it. They've helped you become a better person today so that when you run into those obstacles again, you know how to handle them this time with whatever method of support that might be so that you can continue on that journey in a positive way and enjoy the ride, because there is no finish line with it. I think it's all about the ride, and I think that's important to remember, especially when it comes to weight.
Wow. And I just want to say that whole shoe hour delivery, shoe in 2 hours thing, that works really well as an alternative reward to food. Do you want to ask? Do you want me to ask it? You get.
I'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna get coffee. Not like drinking coffee, but.
She's gotten all choked up. This can be a tender subject. Well, I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask the panel. And Nikki, since you haven't had a chance, maybe you might want to take a stab at it. In your current journey, since you started the weight loss journey, is there anybody in your life that became a sabotage or a saboteur or an interruption that impeded your progress?
It is with a profound sense of gratitude to the universe that I can say, actually, no. I don't. I don't have a single solitary, and it's probably because I was raised by a very prolific woman who taught me to choose the people in my life and who taught me the power of cutting off people who weren't feeding my soul. And that was like an expression that she used a lot, is feeding your soul. And so if somebody is in my life who I feel is taking me to a negative place, and here's the deal with me. I'm a big proponent of personal responsibility. You can't make me feel anything. I can allow you to make me make the decision to feel something. I can feel anger in response to something that you say. I can choose not to. So if I have a person in my life who is consistently tempting me to make that choice, I have to take action. And so I'm so grateful to have been raised by that woman. She passed away in 2012, and that was going to be one of my life events that I was going to mention in the first question, because I don't think I actually started listening to my mother's words until she had died.
Elaborate. Elaborate.
So one of the things that she said is, don't keep people in your life who aren't feeding your soul. So yeah, no, I don't have any saboteurs. I do have people in my life who challenge me. And those people are everywhere, from the lady at the office who's always bringing in her goodies, and the person, who's always offering me like candy and things like that. And it's a personal responsibility thing. It's up to me to say no. Sometimes I say yes, and then I wish I said no. But I don't look at it as somebody trying to sabotage me, because at the end of the day, I make my own decisions.
Sabotage is kind of a negative word. I guess I didn't mean it as strongly as that. People who are intentionally or unintentionally causing you dilemma or struggle.
No, I don't. And I know that's not
But
probably
you just said your coworker. It's a challenge. Those challenges get, but.
I'm going to own this. I can be my own sabotager. I am going to own my self-sabotage. I had a conversation earlier with Meryl recently. I mean, I'm a therapist. I have a high level of self-awareness. But you are introduced to new and different experiences all the time. And I was at dinner the other night, and then didn't really eat much, but we were going to go get beignets. And I was like, oh, great, my friends are coming into town. This is so much fun. And we were sitting, getting